Welcome back. It's Coach Garrett's Exercise Library, Volume 5, another installment. Agility ladder. The point of the agility ladder is to move our feet quickly with some accuracy. So we can always move our feet quickly, but to try to be accurate and actually end up with our foot going specific places is kind of a different skill. We can go faster or slower with these. Here are just a couple of my favorite examples. Classic in, out, out, foot goes in, out, out. It's a good idea to challenge people to switch which foot goes in. So I was leading with my right. I'm going to try leading with my left. And we can go faster or slower. If you have people in a line doing this, you can indicate that they could do a few in each square and move forward more slowly if they're in front of or behind someone who's moving through the ladder more slowly. We can also do a lateral in, out, out. So I'm going in, out, out, and moving laterally to the next square. Again, you want to do that in both sides. If you have people moving through, you'd have them go on one side and then the other. We can also do this shuffle through, or a Heisman shuffle, 1, 2, 3 shuffle. It's called different things. So it's in, and then out the other side, in, out the other side. And that's another one where I could do this more than once in each square. Moving forward or backward are all good examples. Another piece of agility work that can be very effective is a dot drill. So I just have these 5 dots. It looks like the 5 on a 6-sided die. We can do these jumping or stepping, and there's just a bunch of different ways to do it. The main thing about having dots is that we're trying to be accurate and put our feet as close to the dots as possible. This first one is just stepping. So I'm wide, I step into narrow, I step back out to wide. It's very similar to something we could do on the ladder. I'm going backwards, stepping narrow, stepping back to wide. Again, I'd want to switch which foot goes into the middle first, so I don't just use one pattern. We can do that jumping, so hopping to the center, hopping up, hopping backwards. We can also do that same pattern with a jump spin. We want to make sure we're not spinning the same way each time because we get very dizzy. We can also do some double foot hops, zigzag. So a little zigzag across, zigzag back the other way. And then we can do that single leg if we would like to. So hopping from dot to dot on one leg and then the other. Any other patterns are also going to do about the same thing. Air thruster. We're going to hold our imaginary weights in our hands, do a squat, press the overhead. So it's just like doing a thruster with 2 dumbbells or a barbell or something, but we're just using our hands, hitting a nice solid squat, and then a nice strong overhead. Ring push-ups. We can use the rings to add an element of instability to our push-ups. So we can plank or reverse plank in our rings. So our reverse plank would be here. Our plank would be here. And the hardest thing about this is that we can move our feet just a little bit. It really affects the plank. So stepping forward makes this much easier to do my push-up. Stepping back a little bit makes it much harder to do my push-up. We can also lengthen our rings. The lower we want to go, it might make more sense to have your ring lower as well. Main things with our ring push-up, we're keeping our core nice and neutral so we're not coming back and then kind of winding through and moving our hips, but rather we're keeping our core nice and neutral. Pulling elbows back towards the sides, similar to our push-up. We don't really want to be up here. We don't really want to be up here. We want to have our shoulders in a more neutral and stable position. Side plank switches. I'm going to change my camera angle a little bit. No, I'm not. I'm going to do single arm ring So I can do this with one ring. So here I am in my ring reverse plank, again, trying to be neutral through my spine. So a nice long line, heel out through the top of the head. Not here or here, but trying to be a little bit in that hollow position. Feet are a little bit wide on the floor. From this position, I'm just going to release one arm, open for a beat, come back, switch, other arm. The more upright I am, the less strain this puts on my grip and my core. The more horizontal I am, the more stress on the core and the grip. Kip swings. So kip swing is just what I'm calling kipping practice. It can be a mini kip, it can be a leg assisted kip, it can be just sort of your average kip, it can be a hip to bar, very exaggerated kip. So if we're doing just a leg assisted kip, we could also grab a PVC and just work through our arch and hollow positions as a way to practice those positions and lengthening the body as opposed to sort of crunching, but rather lengthening as we get to arch and hollow. If I have the perfect height here, I can have my feet on the floor and go through my hollow and my arch. And then I'm really thinking about pushing the bar forward and pulling the bar back and giving myself sort of minimal support for my feet. Adjusting the height with some plates is going to help make it so that you don't have to bend your legs a whole lot during that. We can also do a single leg assisted kip swing. So here I have a bench. I'm still getting up here. I'm going to get most of my body's freely swinging. I'm going to try to go through a dynamic feeling kip with one leg hanging. So I'm still able to support myself with that one foot, but my other leg is really lengthened, so I get that feeling of the long arch and hollow generating some of that momentum. And for our kip swing, we're trying to have our hips go in front of the bar, behind the bar, shoulders and legs sort of go opposite directions. So it's not an actual swing, but it's more like a scissor situation. A regular kip swing, we can start with some mini kips. So just hanging. Rather small range of motion for our kips so we don't develop a big swing. Just working on some free hanging, getting a little bit of movement. A kind of average kip swing. And then we can make that more aggressive, so we're arching a little bit more, and we're aggressively hollowing out to try to lift our hips up towards the bar. You know, some gymnast types will actually bring their hips all the way to the bar. Not quite able to do that, but you could imagine the sort of level of intensity that would be required to do that. That's our kip swing progression. All right, dead bugs. Dead bugs are this very potent core exercise. It's pretty easy to just be here and kind of like reach out and do this. Woo-hoo-hoo. This does some core activation, but we're really wanting to have a lot of this like hollow feeling. So I'm really working on a brace where I'm squeezing everything in towards my low back, pressing low back towards the floor. Depending on anatomy, it may or may not flatten against the floor. And then I'm here trying to hold this slight curve in my low back and the strong brace. Tops of my shoulders are just off the floor, but again, that means very with anatomy. And then reaching out and spending as much time in this lengthened position as possible, which isn't very long, and then coming back. So it's a lot of core activation, and then coming back. I could even bring a foot down, reach overhead. I could just do one arm at a time. I could be here and just be trying to hold this hollow position while sending one arm overhead and then the other. The arm overhead is going to help us get some shoulder range of motion stuff accomplished as well. But mostly we're just challenging our ability to keep that hollow braced core position. Plank rocks. So we have our serratus anterior here. These are the muscles that sort of engage the shoulder and hold it together in these like top of push-up plank. And we can do a serratus rock like this if we're pushing out with our forearms and moving a little bit up and down. We can apply that to a forearm plank like so. So I'm in my forearm plank, trying to be nice and hollow, and I'm just pushing myself back and then pointing my toes a little bit to come forward. The whole time I'm trying to push my elbows down into the floor to avoid collapsing through the shoulders. So really pushing actively down into the floor, point, flex, point, flex. That's pretty hard. So we would want to give the option to elevate. So you can elevate on a bench. Same thing, point, flex. Aggressively pushing away from the bench, point, flex. We could elevate onto a wall, and then sort of the final variation of that is actually using a foam roller against the wall and just leaning into the wall and rolling up and down that way. But even with the foam roller, or without the foam roller, you could potentially just do calf raises while pressing into the wall, and that would give you that little bit of range of motion to activate the serratus anterior. These guys. Side plank switches. We have some options. Here's one option that I like. Knee down, my foot is back here, so that I'm on the side of the knee, but I don't have this weird, long lever pushing weirdness into my knee. I have my knee bent. Here I am in a side plank. I'm coming on to plank on knees and elbows, rotating the air. That doesn't feel great on my knees, so it might be nice to have a yoga mat or something. We could also do any of these from hands. Feels pretty similar. We can be on our feet. We just want to make sure our feet rotate with our hips and shoulders. So everything rotates together. We can have our feet stacked or staggered. Again, as long as the feet rotate completely with each rep, it's great. Same thing if we're elevated, and we could be on hands or forearms. And again, we could elevate up the wall for more elevation. That's it. That's all I got. Thank you for tuning in to Coach Garrett's Exercise Library Volume 5. Yeah.